She leans in a little closer, laughs a little louder, asks him a question she already knows the answer to. And still, he's calm, kind, unbothered, not cold, just unavailable. At first she brushes it off, then the silence stretches. Her mind starts sprinting. Confusion turns into irritation, and irritation into something she didn't expect, panic. Because this is the exact moment modern dating flips, when the man who used to chase simply stops. There's a quiet change moving through modern dating. Not loud, not dramatic, but unmistakable. Men aren't pulling back with anger or bitterness. They're pulling back with clarity. Not ghosting, not punishing, just redirecting their attention away from places where it was never respected. For years, male attention functioned like a public resource. Overflowing, automatic, always available. A woman could post a picture and expect an instant validation. A half-hearted message could still get a long, thoughtful reply. Even minimal effort earned maximum response. But that system is collapsing today. Men scroll without reacting. They no longer chase by default. They don't reward indifference with effort. And they're learning something powerful. Attention is currency, and they've been giving it away for free. This is where the misunderstanding begins. Women see this new calm distance and assume men have become emotionally unavailable, detached, cold. They read the silence as avoidance. Men, on the other hand, see the sudden confusion, the urgency that arrives only after they stop giving attention, and mistake it for entitlement. Two sides watching the same moment but interpreting it completely differently. Yet only one group feels genuinely threatened by the shift. The people who relied on predictable, guaranteed male validation. Because when men stop offering attention automatically, the entire power structure of modern dating tilts, and suddenly, effort matters, interest matters, reciprocity matters. This is the foundation. This is the turning point. This is the shift nobody expected. Picture this. She walks into the room with the kind of confidence that usually bends the energy in her direction. A slight smile, a slow glance, the subtle tilt of her hair, the cues she's practiced her entire life. Across from her, a man notices, but doesn't react. He's polite, warm, present, but unmoved. No spark of interest, no shift in posture, no attempt to impress. And that's when the first crack appears. Because the moment a woman realizes her usual signals aren't landing, the entire script she's used to suddenly stops working. She's not offended. Not yet. She's confused. Then confusion becomes frustration. Frustration becomes panic. Not because he rejected her, but because he didn't offer the expected attention in the first place. Most women don't consciously understand this, but their social value feedback loop has been calibrated since childhood through predictable male reactions. Compliments on looks, quick attention, immediate responsiveness, effortless validation. So when a man remains neutral, that feedback loop glitches. It's not rejection, it's absence. And absence is a type of mirror. It reflects her actual impact, not her assumed one. Here's the psychological twist. For women who've lived inside a world of automatic approval, neutral male behaviour feels like hostility. Not because the man is doing something wrong, but because he's not doing something she's always counted on. He isn't chasing. He isn't rewarding. He isn't performing the expected emotional labour. He's simply existing without centering her. And in that quiet gap between what she expected and what she receives, panic is born. Because when a man's attention isn't guaranteed, she's forced to confront a reality she's never had to face. Interest is no longer automatic. Validation is no longer owed. And her influence isn't universal. This is the indifference trigger. Long before dating ever begins, the training starts. Little girls grow up in a world that rewards their presence. A new hairstyle, compliments, a polite smile, praise, a moment of cuteness, applause. They don't have to earn attention. It arrives automatically. And slowly, quietly, a mental model forms. I exist. I get rewarded. Not intentionally, not maliciously, just culturally baked in. By the time they reach adolescence, the world doubles down on it. Boys stare. Teachers soften their tone. Strangers open doors. Social media amplifies every photo with instant affirmation. She doesn't think of it as privilege, she thinks of it as reality. The world reacts to her, and the reaction becomes her emotional baseline. But then adulthood arrives, and things start to shift. Beauty still opens doors, but not as many men notice her, but don't orbit her. And the biggest shock of all, men have options, real options, global options, digital options, and most importantly, emotional options that don't depend on female approval. Men are no longer starving for attention. They aren't living in drought conditions. They can choose. They can leave. They can ignore. And that's when her childhood training collides with adult reality. The default advantage she relied on begins to collapse, not because she lost value, but because men changed. They don't respond to every signal. They don't melt under every compliment. They don't validate by reflex. Suddenly, the formula "I exist, I get rewarded" stops working, and for the first time in her life, she has to confront a world where attention isn't guaranteed. The emotional floor she's always stood on disappears beneath her, and panic fills the space where certainty used to be. This is the childhood training problem. Picture a hotel ballroom buzzing with polite conversations, soft music, and the usual corporate small talk. In the corner stands a man who carries himself with quiet, grounded confidence. Not flashy, not loud, just centered. A high-value man who isn't trying to impress anyone. A woman across the room notices him. At first, she does what always works. She steps closer. Proximity. Close enough to be noticed, not close enough to be obvious. He nods politely and returns to his conversation. She tries again, compliments. A quick line about his presentation or his watch. He thanks her with a warm smile and keeps his focus elsewhere. Then comes humour. A light joke about the event, the food, the temperature. Something to open a doorway. He chuckles, respectful, but doesn't walk through it. Finally, the classic move. Light touch on the arm. Barely there, just enough to test the response. And this time, the silence between them is different. He acknowledges it, steps back slightly to reset personal space, and continues his discussion with another colleague. Nothing rude, nothing reactive, just immune. That's when confusion begins to spread through the group. Someone whispers, "Is he shy?" Another asks, "Is he arrogant?" A third wonders, "Is something wrong with him?" They can't imagine a simpler explanation. He just doesn't respond to debate, not because he's damaged, but because he's not starving. And for a woman who has always relied on attention as her primary tool, this moment feels like a reality glitch, a betrayal of the world she thought she understood. When a man becomes immune, her old strategies stop working. The script she mastered no longer applies, and she's left standing in a room that suddenly feels unfamiliar. Because the power dynamics have finally changed. The real chaos doesn't start in the talking stage. It starts inside the relationship, when a man stops doing the things he was never supposed to be doing in the first place. No more planning elaborate dates just to prove he cares. No more texting all day to keep her anxiety calm. No more jumping at every emotional storm to earn a temporary moment of peace. No more chasing after cold behaviour, hoping she'll come back around. No more begging for affection like it's a prize she hands out on special occasions. And when he stops over-investing, something shifts instantly. She feels it before he even says a word. The energy is different. The dynamic is different. The gravity of the relationship changes. Picture a simple scenario, a fictional composite of 100 real stories. A man finally decides to match her energy instead of carrying the entire emotional weight. If she gives warmth, he meets it. If she pulls back, he lets her. If she becomes cold, he stops trying to thaw the ice. For the first time, he's balanced. Not distant. Balanced. but to her it feels like abandonment. So she panics. She labels him emotionally unavailable, distant, closed off. She starts questioning the entire relationship, not because he changed, but because his effort stopped hiding her own lack of effort. That's the part most people avoid talking about. A man's silence isn't rejection. His calm isn't disinterest. His reduced effort isn't emotional withdrawal. He's not distant. He's just done overgiving. And this is the point where panic meets accountability, where she finally sees the gap he spent months trying to cover. There's a reason this part hits harder than anything else. Social media didn't just change dating, it created validation addicts. For years, a single selfie could pull in a flood of attention, hundreds of likes, dozens of comments, men lining up in the DMs like it was a waiting room. And because it was so easy, the brain adjusted. It learned the formula. Post something, get rewarded instantly. But now, men have finally caught on. They don't comment. They don't like. They don't slide in. They don't reward thirst traps. They don't chase the highlight reel anymore. And this shift didn't happen with noise. It happened quietly. Silence became the new rebellion. Here's the story that captures it perfectly. A woman tries to get her ex's attention after weeks of no contact. First post, a casual mirror picture, no reaction. Second post, makeup on, hair done, more polished. Still nothing. Third post, a not-so-subtle, going out tonight shot. The one that always brought him back before silence. Absolute silence. That's when panic sets in. She starts refreshing her notifications. She replays old conversations. She wonders who he's seeing, what he's doing, why he isn't chasing. But the truth is simple. Attention used to be her leverage. Now it's gone. And when the reward disappears, withdrawal hits. Not from love, not from loss, but from the sudden absence of the one currency she always thought she controlled, male validation. And once that source dries up, the entire power dynamic resets. There's a moment in modern dating nobody warns women about, the moment their old tactics stop working. For years, certain patterns delivered predictable results. Jealousy games pulled reactions. Silent treatment created anxiety. Emotional chaos triggered overcorrecting. Withholding intimacy restored control. Threatening to leave forced apologies. These tactics didn't always come from malice. Often they were learned behaviors, survival strategies, or habits passed down from friends, movies, or past relationships. But something changed. Men stopped reacting. Take jealousy games. A woman casually mentions another guy expecting a spark. The modern man just nods. He doesn't compete, doesn't argue, doesn't spiral. He simply doesn't play. Silent treatment. He uses the free time. He reads, works out, goes to sleep early. No chasing, no repairing a mess he didn't create. Emotional chaos. The raised voice, the sudden arguments, the dramatic storm. He doesn't escalate. He doesn't shrink. He stays calm, grounded and centered. And without emotional fuel, the chaos burns out fast. Withholding intimacy used to feel like leverage. Now he has standards. He respects himself. He understands connection isn't a prize, it's a two-way exchange. And the big one, threatening to leave the modern man doesn't beg. He listens. He says, "If that's what you need, I won't stop you." And suddenly the threat becomes a mirror, showing her she never expected him to call it. This is where many women face a harsh realization. Their influence was never built on genuine connection. It was built on reaction management, and when men stop reacting, every tactic collapses. What remains is the truth they avoided. Without manipulation, they need actual relational skills, communication, warmth, reciprocity, accountability. And many discover, for the first time, they never learned how to love without control. One of the most uncomfortable truths modern dating has exposed is this. Women expect men to tolerate entitlement. While other women are offering everything they refuse to, for years, many women believed they didn't need to try, that simply showing up was enough. Meanwhile, the dating landscape shifted quietly. almost invisibly, because while one woman approaches dating with demands, requirements, attitude, and take it or leave it energy, another woman shows up with kindness, support, warmth, feminine softness, actual appreciation. And men, especially high-value, self-aware men, are choosing the second one every single time. Imagine two dating profiles. Profile A, don't waste my time, know your worth, must make X amount. No broke men, no short men, no emotional men. It's a resume of restrictions, rules, and resentment. Profile B, I love cooking, traveling, reading, and building something meaningful with the right man. I bring loyalty, peace, humor, and partnership, looking for someone kind, ambitious, and family-oriented. One profile pushes men away, the other invites them in. And here's the part that triggers panic. Men pick peace over drama. Every time. Men aren't desperate, they're selective, and selection means comparison. Women who rely on entitlement, who believe effort is oppression, kindness is weakness, and appreciation is outdated, are suddenly realizing that competition exists. Not competition based on looks, but on value, emotional stability, support, companionship, respect, femininity, partnership energy. And many women aren't used to competing on those terms. The panic doesn't come from men disappearing. The panic comes from realizing other women are doing what they won't, and getting the men they want. This part isn't about blaming women. It's about acknowledging nature, the one force no culture, ideology, or trend can rewrite. Women experience something around their early 30s that men simply don't, a biological countdown. Not just the fertility window, though that's the foundation, but the psychological urgency that comes with it. For most women, sometime between 28 and 34, a quiet pressure starts building. I need stability. I want a family. Time is moving faster than I thought. It's not desperation. It's biology signaling that certain choices have time limits. Meanwhile, men enter their 30s with the opposite trajectory. Their value, career, income, confidence, social status, emotional maturity tends to rise, not fall. A 33-year-old woman feels the clock speeding up. A 33-year-old man feels the world opening. This mismatch creates a natural tension in modern dating. Women feel urgency. Men feel options. Women often want to accelerate commitment. Men often want to take time and choose carefully. Women fear decreasing opportunity. Men experience increasing opportunity. The result? Women feel dating pressure. Men feel dating leverage. And this difference, biological, not moral, fuels the anxiety many women experience when men stop giving default attention. Because the clock isn't just about fertility, it's about competition, timing, and the shrinking window for the kind of relationship many women eventually want. Understanding this reality isn't cruel, it's clarity. And clarity explains why pressure rises for women at 30 plus, while peace rises for men at the very same age. For years, many women rely on what I call the nice guy safety net. He's the dependable friend, the stable admirer, the quiet fallback option. She may not choose him in her 20s, but she keeps him in orbit. Just close enough to feel secure, just far enough to stay unavailable. In her mind, he'll always be there until he isn't. Because something happens when men get tired of waiting. They grow up, level up, and move on. Usually silently. So when she turns around at 32, 33, 35 thinking, okay, now I'm ready for the good guy, she finds a reality she never prepared for. He's taken, he's thriving, he's unavailable, he's gone. This is the moment that creates existential panic, not about love, but about the sudden disappearance of a guaranteed option. For the first time she realizes there's no backup plan, no automatic safety net, no man waiting patiently in the wings. This isn't punishment, it's consequence. While she was exploring, he was improving. While she was undecided, he was advancing. While she was keeping him as a spare, he was becoming someone else's first choice. This is often the first moment many women feel what men have felt for decades. If you don't choose someone, someone else will. and that realization hits harder than heartbreak. It's the end of entitlement and the beginning of accountability. Masculine men trigger a very specific kind of panic, not because they're aggressive or controlling, but because they're unmoved. They don't chase, they don't negotiate with drama, they don't reward manipulation, they don't lose emotional control, and most importantly, they have standards. For a woman who's only dated insecure or approval-hungry men, this feels like hitting a wall she didn't know existed, because weak men bend instantly. Strong men don't bend at all. They evaluate. Mini story. At a dinner gathering, Maya tries her usual tactics on Daniel, the type of man women whisper about when he walks in. She tests him with playful disrespect. He doesn't react. She pulls back to create anxiety. He gives her space, without chasing. She throws a jealous comment to spark tension. He laughs lightly and continues his conversation with someone else. Finally, she escalates, a subtle guilt trip about him, not paying enough attention. He looks at her, calm and steady. If you need control to feel secure, I'm not your guy. That's when she spirals, not because he was rude, but because for the first time, her old tools fail. Her emotional leverage breaks, her rehearsed strategies collapse, and she realizes the truth. A masculine man doesn't panic when she withdraws. She panics when he doesn't. This is the moment many women discover they weren't prepared for a man with actual boundaries. The modern dating world isn't local anymore, it's global. Brutally, beautifully global. A man no longer has to settle for the women in his neighborhood, his city, or even his country. His options now span continents. Video calls, language apps, global forums, travel culture, cross-border friendships that turn into relationships. Men who were once invisible in their hometowns can now meet women who appreciate them instantly. And appreciation changes everything. When a man realizes he can be valued in Brazil, respected in Eastern Europe, admired in Southeast Asia, or genuinely cared for in the Middle East, entitlement loses its power over him. He's no longer trapped in a dating pool where the loudest voice wins. He can choose warmth, kindness, femininity, anywhere on the map. Where the panic starts, women who relied on local dominance, the I'm the best option here, he'll chase me no matter what mindset, are blindsided when they realize geography no longer protects their leverage. Because now, a man can simply say, if you can't give me peace, someone else will. Not as a threat, as a fact. And that fact creates a new kind of panic. The global market exposes value instantly. It also exposes entitlement instantly. Modern men aren't leaving dating. They're leaving local scarcity for global abundance. This is where everything finally cracks. When a woman has spent years, sometimes her entire life, tying her self-worth to how much male attention she can pull, the moment that attention disappears, it's not just rejection, it's an identity collapse. Because for her, attention wasn't a compliment. It was a mirror, a confirmation of who she believed she was, a measurement of her value. So when men go quiet, when the likes slow down, when the stares stop, when the constant validation fades, she isn't just losing admiration. She's losing the version of herself she built on it. That's why the panic hits so hard. Not because men pulled away, but because they took with them the only self-definition she understood. Now the hard part. Begins to survive this shift, she has to build what she never had to before. A real personality. Kindness that isn't conditional. Communication that isn't manipulative. Emotional maturity instead of emotional leverage. Authentic value beyond appearance. And this rebuilding isn't graceful. It's painful, humiliating, and disorienting, like learning to walk again in adulthood. This is the psychological collapse. The moment she realizes beauty opened doors, but only character keeps them open. There's a reason the old strategies don't work anymore. Men have evolved. They're no longer walking into relationships blind, untrained, or unaware. They talk to each other now, openly, honestly, without shame. They compare experiences, share patterns, dissect behavior. The isolation that once kept men confused has disappeared, and the internet changed everything. Men learn online, they study psychology, relationships, body language, emotional manipulation, boundaries. They recognize red flags before they get attached. They don't romanticize disrespect anymore. Instead of chasing women for validation, they're chasing progress. They build careers. They build bodies. They build discipline. They build confidence that doesn't depend on approval. And with that comes something women never expected: standards. Men today demand reciprocity. They expect kindness back, effort back, loyalty back, respect back. Attention isn't a default reward anymore. It's earned. So when a woman meets these men and her usual tactics fall flat, she feels something unfamiliar. A man who won't bend. A man who won't beg, a man who won't crumble at a pretty face. Not because he's cold, but because he's grown. And now, for the first time, women are facing a generation of men who require what they themselves were rarely asked to give: value in return. Here's the truth most people don't want to say out loud. Women aren't panicking because men changed. They're panicking because men stopped complying. For years, male attention was automatic, a constant stream, a safety net, a background certainty, a look, a compliment, a DM, a chase. It created an identity built on one assumption: no matter what I do, men will always want me. But that era is over. Men withdrew their attention, not with anger, but with awareness. They stopped rewarding disrespect. They stopped entertaining emotional games. They stopped prioritizing women who gave them nothing back. And suddenly, for the first time, many women are standing in a space they've never experienced before: silence. No automatic validation, no guaranteed admirers, no fallback options. This is the harsh realization. It's not that men became cold. It's that men finally developed standards, and now women must meet them. Attention is no longer a birthright. It's something that has to be earned. Let's end with clarity, not conflict. Men aren't being cruel. They're being selective. They're choosing where their time, energy, and effort go. Not out of bitterness, but out of maturity. The truth is simple. Women who adapt, who bring value, who understand reciprocity, they will thrive in this new landscape. But women who expect automatic attention, who rely on entitlement or beauty alone, they will feel the shift as panic, because the rules have changed. Men are no longer chasing by default. They're investing with intention. So here's the challenge to every man listening. Build yourself. Protect your standards. Stand firm in your boundaries. Give your attention to women who appreciate, not those who expect. And as for the panic you see around you, understand this: the panic isn't the problem. The panic is the proof.